All aboard! Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Yes, it's Chicago Junction, the radio program that is all about everything that is to do with railroading. Now here's our boss, the head of the Windy City Hometown Radio Network, as well as being the chief electrical engineer, Mr. John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Bry. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Monday, February the 22nd, the year 2016. The panel today will be talking about railroads and model railroads. And now to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Mr. Bryan.
Yes, and I want to remind everybody that the opinions expressed on the following program does not necessarily reflect those of the station, the management, or that of the Windy City Hometown Network. And now, here's our host with the most, Mr. Jack Red Ryan.
Honest, folks, I got no opinions at all about nothing. Remember? Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome. We're in our February edition. So far, winter's going pretty well. It means we're going to probably get socked. I just said I'll probably get socked in the next few weeks. But we're just being recorded on February 18th. And we're here for our monthly get-together. And I'm going to introduce our lineup. To my left, we just heard him talking, Brian Valu.
That is correct.
And you are a what?
Well, I'm a retired Navy and railroader. Mm-hmm. I was an engineer, a conductor, and locomotive engineer. I am a rail fan. I belong to several organizations, the Chicago chapter, NRHS, along with the Cincinnati chapter, Cincinnati Cinder Sniffers, which is a live steam group, Chicago Area Garden Railway Society, playing with the trains indoors and out, and reaffirming my association with Lionel groups. And also volunteered at a couple of museums rebuilding steam locomotives. We just finished rebuilding the Shea out at LaPorte at the Heston Steam Museum.
And I might remind you that last year you spent some time with the Abraham Lincoln funeral train.
That is correct.
And what about this year? You know anything about them this year? Or?
No, they haven't talked to me yet. They think they might have all the volunteers they need, would not have to go with me again.
Aw. Come on, I don't believe that.
No, what I'm getting ready for is this summer is save up and go to the Lionel Operating Train Society's convention in Valley Forge.
When is that?
It's going to be in July, and starting on Monday and ending basically Sunday morning. Saturday night would be their banquet. And the first tour happens to be taking a 2-hour trip away from there to a little town called Pottsville.
Who?
Pottsville. And one of the first tours set up is a complete tour of the Yuengling Brewery. The oldest continuously operating brewery in the United States.
Well.
And they have extra lifeguards on duty.
Yes. Yes, Dave Darushka?
Dave Darushka.
And what is your background?
Retired locomotive engineer, currently working as a blogger. I have a blog called Player with Railroads, which is a blog about Chicago railroad history. Mm-hmm. I'm responsible for our Facebook page, Chicago Junction. And I'm also an at-large board member of the Black Hawk chapter of the National Railway Historical Society, as well as the program director.
Mm-hmm. You also had do you have some degree from IIT or?
Third degree.
No.
Yeah, I have a bachelor a Bachelor of Arts degree, not from IIT, but from the University of Illinois.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I went to IIT for 4 years, and then I finished up my undergrad at U of I while I was working at the Chicago Northwestern Railroad. I was a part-time student and a full-time railroader.
And you're a married man?
Yes.
What, with a bachelor's degree? How did that happen?
Yeah. Well, after working during the my period of going to school and working at the railroad, I also undertook the preservation movement for the Chicago Northwestern Station. And between the three of them, I almost became a bachelor because my wife never saw me and she was ready to divorce me. Unfortunately, we didn't save the Chicago Northwestern Station.
Well, can't win them all, I guess.
Can't win them all, nope.
Try.
I'm still married, though.
Right. Okay. Yes, and Kevin Barry?
I am a retired sergeant from the Chicago Police Department, lifelong collector and operator of Lionel trains, a member of the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club, and I work with the Chicago community of the Pathway to Adventure Council of the Boy Scouts of America.
Okay. And that leaves me. My connection is basically the family was very much into being employed by the railroad, by the Chicago Junction Railroad, as a matter of fact, from whence we got our name. So my grandfather was a switchman there, uncle was a switchman, my cousin was, I don't know what his position was, but and we used to go on the picnic every year, and from Chicago down to Michigan City, which was quite a place to go in those days. Washington Park there, we had a beautiful beach, picnic area, amusement park, zoo, and there's a huge tower you get to walk up to. So I don't know what's over there now, other than maybe some outlet malls or something like that in Michigan City. But anyway, all right.
Hey, speaking of Chicago Junction, I went to a presentation of the Chicago Junction Railroad at the Chicago chapter of the Railway and Locomotive Historical Society last Friday. Unfortunately, the person giving the presentation attempted to rename the PowerPoint program that he had on a thumb drive and deleted it. So there was no presentation.
Oh, no.
Then they decided they were going to show videos off the computer through the projector, and they couldn't get the projector and the computer to communicate with each other. Luckily for me, I ran into some people I used to work with at the Northwestern, and so I had a nice evening chatting it up with folks. And
might they think about rescheduling?
yeah, they are going to reschedule. I felt really bad for the guy that deleted it. He was like totally perplexed.
Yeah, well, you know, what can I tell you? You know, you put your heart and soul into something, and
yeah, I mean, everybody, and it was pretty good turnout, too. Oh, and then part of the discussion that evening was the Chicago chapter is on its last legs.
Yeah.
They have no volunteers for the board of directors. They have no volunteers. They have one officer. The current chairman is going to retire, and he's trying to find somebody to replace him. And they have nobody coming forward to volunteer. So they're very concerned about the future of the chapter. And it seems that, you know, I'd recently posted a article on our Facebook page about model railroading becoming a very aged out hobby, that a lot of younger people are not picking up on model railroading, and it's the same is true for railroad historical societies. People really don't come to meetings. The Black Hawk chapter I belong to is an exception. They get good turnouts for their meetings, mostly in part to the president, Bill Maloney, who does a smash-up job of publicizing stuff. But, you know, younger people are just not into belonging to groups.
Dave, no sooner you talked about a volunteer that we had one come in here. What is your name, sir? Will you sign in, please? Mr. Challenger?
Try to sit down first.
Okay.
Ron Smolin.
Okay, and your background is... what's the matter? You okay?
Model railroading, traction.
And
Things
you're
like that.
our house musician, correct?
And a musician.
You
correct.
have a
10-piece orchestra.
orchestra.
Yeah. How many thing and he'll play a tune for you.
How many what?
If you hum anything, he'll play a tune for you.
Yes. And I'll send you a bill.
Are you union?
Of course.
Okay.
And he looks good in a tux.
Anything interesting happened? How about that collision in Europe between those high-speed trains? Or anybody can say anything about that a couple of weeks back? No?
The one in Germany.
I guess.
There hasn't been a lot said since the day it happened, and
Yeah, I
the
know.
following morning when they released the body count.
Oh, was it a lot?
If I remember correctly, it was 6 or 8 fatal and about 20 hospitalized.
Oh, Amtrak does a better job than that.
But actually, for all of the train traffic you have, those are rare, aren't they? Any kind of collisions like that? Am I yes? Am I right?
Yeah, like the one with the DGV also. And a lot of it was, the one in France was the same as Amtrak's high speed.
Yeah, excessive speed.
Excessive speed on the corner was supposed to go on, and signal failure on the part of what happened with the IC train, Intercity Express.
So it was unfortunate, highly preventable, right? Would you say?
Yeah, Amtrak is still trying to figure out what happened there on the East Coast.
Well, they let the National Transportation Board, Safety Board,
Right,
running the investigation.
Right, and NTSB can't figure out what happened. So far, they've come up with absolutely no cause.
Remember, they allot a year.
Yeah.
But like the one in Germany, they know it was signal failure.
Yeah, well, okay. Okay, well, anybody got anything they want to start? We're supposed to have somebody calling us pretty soon.
Yeah.
Anybody got anything?
Well, Ron wanted me to mention my little trip to Milwaukee a couple weeks ago. I went to Milwaukee to see the Art of the North Shore at the Groman Museum, which is part of the Milwaukee School of Engineering. And it was a total train trip for me because I took Metro from my house downtown, walked over to Union Station, caught the Hiawatha in Milwaukee, spent the night in a sweet little apartment hotel, walking distance from the museum. And it was a very, very good exhibit and well attended. Very enjoyable.
Was this a lot of photography, or?
It was basically the art. There was a series of posters done in the 1920s to publicize not only the North Shore Railroad, but the Chicago Elevated and the South Shore, which were all part of the Samuel Insull Empire. And it was award-winning, groundbreaking illustrations, advertising, a lot of it based on earlier stuff that had been done by the London Underground. And it won a lot of awards for the time, and it's just being rediscovered now. A lot of designers look at it and think it was very forward-looking for the time.
You see a lot of that artwork showing up, like to buy for your den or whatever.
Yeah, poster artwork, right.
Go to the dunes, take the South Shore
Exactly.
line. Notre Dame football, all that. We have some of those.
Yeah.
They're getting more and more popular, too.
The thing about them was that they were basically simple images. There wasn't a lot of print on them. It just would say something like, visit the dunes, South Shore Railroad, or Milwaukee Zoo, Chicago North Shore Railroad. And it was an effective form of advertising, but very, very simple, very colorful. A lot of younger illustrators in Chicago at the time who later went on to become well-known illustrators. So it was it's still running. Anybody wants to hustle up to Milwaukee?
Where is
check
it?
it out.
Where in Milwaukee now again?
It's called the Groman Museum, and it's part of the Milwaukee School of Engineering.
Oh, you did say that. Groman,
yeah, it's just a little north of downtown Milwaukee. And great little Milwaukee's a great city. I can't say enough about it. It's a great place.
Yeah, and if you want to still stroll around up there after you finish at the museum, the domes, they're a botanic garden.
They're closed.
No, they're open.
No, they're closed. I just read they were closed because of structural problems.
One of them closed.
One of them closed. Okay.
Yeah. There's, I think, 3 of them, right?
Yeah.
So you go to 3, but you can't go to 1.
Right.
That's
No,
right.
take it easy, guys. Let's not fight over this one.
No. They've got a good. They set up their train layout up there.
This is
it's the attack of the monsters. So
made me think of Search as a Candy Mint, Search as a Breath Mint. Old commercial. I guess I'm showing your age now, right? Kids, search, you young folks.
2 minutes in 1.
Something you popped in your mouth to sweeten it. I guess. Was it a candy mint or a breath mint, though? Is anyone sure?
yes,
Yes. There you go.
Parquet.
Okay. What else?
Parquet.
butter.
Kevin, you got anything going with the modeling or model railroad?
Well, the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club will host the Railroading Merit Badge Clinic on May 14th. Information can be obtained at the by Googling the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club on our, and go to our website. There's contact information. It's a one-day event with lunch provided for the scout. There'll be presenters there from Operation Lifesaver. In the past, we have been fortunate enough to have an officer from the Canadian National Railroad Police Force, and it's very, very much like a it is a very intense one-day training opportunity, and a scout can complete his railroading merit badge in one day. It's a great merit badge. It's a lot of fun, and it will be the last event before September for the club, because the club will then immediately shut down and the layout will be struck, and the new layout will start rising from the sawdust, and will be ready by September.
And the club is where?
New Lenox, Illinois, 1311 South Schoolhouse Road, and the website is all lowercase letters, CLRC, the word trains.com.
Chicago Lionel Railroad Club?
Yes, sir.
Railroad.com.
CLRCtrains.com.
Oh, trains. Okay. We'll make sure we get this out there. Whenever we have something we want to make sure.
Besides having Canadian National there, they do have an independent speaker there also.
Where's that?
Doing Operation Lifesaver.
Oh.
I did say we had Operation Lifesaver presenters.
Who is that?
You said presenter, mostly officers from the Chicago National, Canadian National.
No, I said in the past we have had an officer there. Yes, Brian did the major part of the Operation Lifesaver presentation last year.
Are you there again?
I was the only presenter there.
This is
200
for
scouts.
You say a merit badge. That's, I presume, the Boy Scouts of America? Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I know we mentioned earlier, which one makes the connection here. So I don't know if I got that one. And I got landscape gardening, personal fitness, cooking. Everybody got cooking. Cooking merit badge was good. Cook for one of the assistant scoutmasters on an overnight. You got it, if I remember correctly.
There were 3 merit badges in the transportation group: aviation, automotive, and railroading.
Yeah.
But very few scouts can get the aviation merit badge anymore because it's so hard to get access to an aircraft.
Makes field going too, right? We have a caller on the line. Hello.
Not yet.
No? Oh. Well, fake it. I got to cover for my mistakes here. I thought you said we will have one shortly. But
I guess the big news in Chicago was the last of the old bi-level cars.
Highliner.
The Highliner cars. Excuse me.
Highliners.
of what?
The last of the Highliners on Metra from Randolph Street down to University Park.
They're getting rid of them?
Well, they've been getting rid of them, and the last full set ran its last run
Friday.
I was there. I rode from Kensington to UP. And a fine trip it was.
I waved from Roosevelt.
Franklin or Theodore?
Theodore.
I remember at work when I was at missing persons at the desk.
Eleanor.
Okay.
Yeah. What?
Okay.
Oh, we had a caller?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello. Is this Cynthia?
Yes, this is Cynthia.
Cynthia, how are you?
I'm just fine.
Cynthia Ogoric, and you are a railroad historian, I'm told?
Partly, yes.
And you've written a book about what?
Well, one book came out in 2012. It's a history and photographs of the Chicago South Shore and South Bend Railroad.
Okay. And you say one came out. You have another one?
Well, I just finished one with writing in partnership with Bill Maloney, and it's supposedly coming out later this year, also from Arcadia, and it's about the Chicago and Western Indiana line.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now the one that's out already from 2012 on the South Shore line, is that available anywhere? Or?
Oh yes. You can find it through Arcadia's website or on Amazon.com, or in various bookstores if they still exist.
Oh, yeah, you're right. They're becoming a rarity, aren't they?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I remember Fowlett's, Trucks and Botanos. Where was so? How did you get into railroading as a subject of interest?
Well, the South Shore book was my third one, and the other two, one was on the Lincoln Highway, and the first one was on the Calumet River system. So I had sort of had a series going there, but that's sort of transportation as well as regional histories of the Calumet region on both sides of the Indiana-Illinois state line.
Yeah, how long have you been writing?
The South Shore just made the kind of the trifecta.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been writing?
Oh my goodness, we don't want to go there.
Okay,
we can't count that high.
Okay, but are you a writer in another field, a newspaper or anything? Or?
Well, I did that for a while. I was a correspondent for the Times of in Hammond, Indiana, and I also wrote for the Sun-Times and various other newspapers and magazines.
Did you ever get a scoop, like on the Daily Planet?
No.
I'm
too laid back for scoops.
Did you ever date Superman?
Not that I was aware of.
Yeah.
He may have thought, but,
Anybody got any questions for this lady? Come on, somebody got a question.
Explain. It's Dave DeRuska. How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good. Explain a little bit about the history of the South Shore, its beginnings and...
Okay. It started out actually as about a 3 or 4 mile trolley line between East Chicago and Indiana Harbor, Indiana, probably connecting downtown East Chicago with the gate at Inland Steel, and that was about 1901. And then they decided that they wanted to become an interurban, and they wanted to make money, so the company was reorganized and renamed, and officially the founding date is in 1908, and that's when it started branching out of East Chicago, and by around that time it finally became a true interurban, eventually connecting into South Bend. And then in order to get into Chicago, people had to get off the train, say in Michigan City, and get on a steamship and cross the lake to get to Chicago, or else they picked up the Michigan Central, which was a non-electric, steam line at the time. But then the South Shore, which at that time was called the Lake Shore, actually, got into an agreement with the Illinois Central. And as you know, the Illinois Central is north-south into downtown Chicago through Roseland and points south and Harvey and so forth. So they entered an agreement, and the Illinois Central built a 6-mile line from roughly 115th Street Pullman area or Kensington, and it went all the way to the Indiana state line, and that meant it came through Hegewisch. And that line is called the Kensington and Eastern officially. And that was what enabled the South Shore from Indiana to connect with the lines into Chicago. And then there were other mutations on the line. Eventually they put in a interlocking tower on about 115th, and that allowed the South Shore to just switch over to the IC platforms. And eventually the IC itself went electric, and that was in the Sam Insel era in the 1920s, and so the South Shore could actually run on electric power all the way into Chicago at that point.
Right. Yeah. Now when they, prior to electrification, the South Shore was hauled by steam locomotives from Kensington downtown, right?
Yes, they had to. At first, they could only go as far with electric as Pullman, and then people got off on the ground level station at Pullman, climbed up and walked over a catwalk bridge and then down some stairs to the IC platform, and they got onto an IC train. then when they had that interlocking tower, they were able to switch the train over to the platform, and then it was hooked to a steam line or steam locomotive and towed into downtown Chicago. And believe it or not, in those days that was progress. You know, it was much more efficient and easier to get into Chicago than ever before.
Okay, anybody questions?
Yeah.
One.
Yeah. Explain a little bit about how the South Shore became basically a public property as opposed to private railroad.
Well, it was a private company. Let me think now. I gotta get years here. Into the 1970s. After the Second World War, ridership was decreasing as it was on all kinds of passenger lines across the country. We became known as the passenger problem, and there was never enough money to really keep it going. And as we got into the late 60s and the 70s, the federal government was starting to pony up money for regional transportation systems, but the Indiana legislature wouldn't deal with the federal government. So for a while, the Chesapeake and Ohio owned the South Shore, and it was ironic because that was probably the first line in the country to get rid of its passenger service. They bought it because they wanted the freight business. And they kept trying to get rid of the passenger service, but all kinds of interstate commerce commissions and so forth held up the abandonment. And then finally, I'm pretty sure I've got the date corrected. It was in 1977 that the Indiana legislature finally allowed the 4 counties across northern Indiana to create the Northern Indiana Regional Transportation, Commuter Transportation District, NICD. And that they were allowed to collect money from the 4 counties and also to accept federal funding. And that's when things finally started rolling again for the South Shore commuter side of it. And then I think it was probably in the 1990s somewhere that Anacostia and Pacific bought the whole thing, and then they sold the commuter service to NICD. And that's kind of what the situation has been since then. The freight side is called South Shore Freight, and you see those cars in the yards here at Burnham mostly, if you're driving by on Goslin. Does that help?
Yeah, helps a lot. Now, not too long ago, the South Shore dropped Kensington as a stop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they put in new trackage for a bypass so they can go around the station, and now with the popularity of Pullman and the fact that they're now a national monument, they're talking about restoring service to Kensington.
Yeah. I can't add anything to that. That's as much as I know as well. I mean, I did get off at Pullman one time. It was a flag stop. That was about 2 summers ago. So I think it's possible to get on and get off there if you flag the train down or tell the conductor that you want to get off.
I know
but that was on the IC, come to think of it.
Right, I know sometimes when people mistakenly get on the Metro Electric trains, and expecting to go to the South Shore, we'll call ahead. You know, the train crew would call ahead and ask the South Shore to make a flag stop for the courtesy of the passengers.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's progress.
Anybody else?
Yeah, this
Brian?
This is Brian Valleau. I understand that they were are they still trying to negotiate to put in service actually to Valparaiso?
They keep talking about it, and I heard about a year ago, I heard some very optimistic information about running the line through Hammond. They were trying to get the land organized, and they were holding public meetings. But since then, I haven't heard anything, and I assume it's still, NICD probably still wants it, but they've got to convince the people who live along the line, I guess, to put up the money for it, and that's always a sticking point.
Geez, I can't imagine
why. Is that those NIMBYs?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's the NIMBYs.
That's a word I learned since we started this. I never heard of that one before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The NIMBYs on the Nixty.
Yes.
I know.
Very good. That's a title for the next book.
Hey, all right.
You are prolific.
Now the book is relatively reasonably priced. I know Arcadia has a niche market where they produce these history books that are relatively inexpensive, so they're affordable to anybody. They're basically pictures and captions. Is that correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
With some chapter introductions.
Right, there's a chapter introduction, and then they usually give you space at the beginning for a long-winded introduction where usually you can put the reason for writing the book and maybe a history of whatever you're talking about.
Is it hardcover or trade paperback, or what would you call it?
These are all softcover paperbacks, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cynthia, I have a question for you.
Okay.
My name's Kevin Berry. I'm a railroad hobbyist. I'm afraid my only connection with the South Shore is a very nice set of passenger cars that are catenary powered with wood siding and that beautiful gray over orange paint scheme that they had. When were those cars taken out of service, if you know?
Well, that happened right after NICD was organized. One of the very first things they did was place an order for, I don't remember how many, but stainless steel passenger cars. And the cars were built in Japan. They were shipped to Cleveland, where they were tweaked, and fitted for our system, and then shipped over here to Michigan City. And so they've been online since 1982. The interesting thing is that those orange cars that you're talking about, the ones we all remember from our youth, most of them, I think all of them had like over 1 million miles on them by the time they were retired. They came online in the late 20s. They were built either at Pullman or at Standard Car over in Hammond, and they lasted for close to 50 years.
I can remember coming home from DePaul University, either in the late 60s or early 70s, and intending to grab the Illinois Central and instead winding up on the South Shore and then having to get off in Roseland and making the rest of the way home on the CTA bus.
Oh, gosh. They wouldn't let you get on an IC?
Well, no, I had to go to the far southwest corner of the city.
Okay.
Okay. I wasn't well versed in transportation enough to make my way over to LaSalle Street Station and get on to Rock Island, which would have actually gotten me to within 2.5 miles of the house.
Yeah.
They say the Rock Island line is a mighty fine line, right?
Yeah.
If you listen to Johnny Cash.
It's the road to right. So, well, anybody else? Questions? You're doing so well here. We're going to make you a panel member. Want to come down?
Don't make them hard now. I'm getting through this.
I offered her to be a panel member when I told her where we broadcast from. She declined.
We have a very lush, posh-looking spot here. No, we have fun though. We have a good time. Don't we every month? I like to do it twice to another show. So, round two, no.
I was on one call-in show where the host pretended he was on a bass fishing boat. Can you top that?
Was that with Ned Locke?
No.
Anyway, okay. Question?
No, she mentioned about these cars.
Identify yourself.
This is Ron Smolan. Now you mentioned about these cars running into the late 1980s, correct?
No, 82.
They stopped all the orange cars in 82?
Right, they changed over to the ones you see today.
Okay, and they're still running in museums throughout the United States.
Well, they're trying. They seem to crop up here and there. About 10 or let's say 15 years ago, there was an effort to put together a South Shore museum that would have been 90 miles long. And the man who was the instigator of this idea owned about 12 of these cars. himself. And but as far as I know, nothing ever came of the museum idea, and the cars are in his big garage someplace. I think it's in Michigan City.
It's a big
Well,
garage.
a lot of them got moved out to East Troy, Wisconsin.
Okay,
And-
yeah, there's a railroad museum up there.
Right, and
Yeah.
they're already announcing their Chicago Day on July 16th. They're going to have 4, possibly 5 of the orange cars operating that day,
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
and that's on July 16th.
Okay.
And that's in addition, they have 2 of the orange cars totally rehabbed and modernized into diners out there. They have dinner trains.
Wow.
Several
I'm glad
times
to
a year.
hear that. Yeah,
Yes.
that's good.
It's Troy, Wisconsin?
East Troy, Wisconsin.
Troy.
East Troy.
East Troy.
And
That's west of Milwaukee?
southwest of Milwaukee, about
Southwest.
40 miles.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we
Freeway close.
talked to somebody from there, didn't we, before? Yeah, thought so.
Mm.
Gee, the old memories there. Well,
Yeah, he was the one who was on his honeymoon.
That's right. Bill Jonas was his name.
Called from Hawaii.
oh yeah. There you go. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, well, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
And
Thank
can we
you
call
for
you
having me.
sometime? And how long will it take before the new book's coming out? You know?
I don't know. We haven't had a date yet, a publication date.
Mm-hmm.
But I can certainly let you know, or if Dave keeps in touch through Bill, Bill Maloney will know.
Mm-hmm. Well, don't feel bad. I haven't had a date in a long time either myself. So blind date, you know. Her seeing eye dog bit me. So anyway, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, and have a pleasant evening. It was
Thank
nice
you.
Oh,
talking
we
with
do
you.
our best. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Cynthia. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Anybody got anything here? Or what about we talk about anybody got a good railroad featuring movie? Time for a break?
Time for a break.
Break. Oh, break. Wait, we're late for it. Break time.
And you are listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7, WRHS FM Norwich, and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Monday, February the 22nd, the year of our Lord, 2016. And this is Jack FM 89.7, WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois. And now, back to Chicago Junction and our panel. Brian?
Brian?
Brian.
Hey, the city of Chicago and the aldermen from my ward, the 19th ward, are suing CSX Railroad for blocking crossings.
Oh, yeah. I heard that.
Blocking crossings on the old Grand Trunk line, which CSX took over. I was driving here today and experienced a delay at that crossing at 115th Street and had to detour. I think there was no train on there. I think the gates were stuck down. So I rarely am delayed by either. There's 2 sets of tracks west of Western Avenue that parallel each other. There's the original Baltimore and Ohio Chicago Terminal, which is now CSX, and then there was the Grand Trunk Railroad, which came under Canadian National control, and CSX bought it. I'm not sure. I think it's just another safety valve when freight gets bollocksed up. Both tracks end up in Blue Island, at Blue Island Junction, which is a huge delay area.
If you drive past the Evergreen Park Municipal Office Facility,
Right.
they have the big sign, big electric sign, and they are involved in a major battle with
Yeah, I think-
CSX to the point that the sign flashes the phone number for CSX, and up until the point that CSX rebuilt the tracks on 95th Street, they had a large 3-foot tall by 2-foot wide sign said, "Road problems, contact CSX," and they had the phone number.
That's one way, huh?
Yeah,
That's almost like extortion.
There's a section of track between 103rd and 111th that's a huge long piece, no crossings or anything. So when crews die, they like to stop the trains there and park them. And when freight trains die, who knows when they're going to recrew them? They could sit there for days on end.
Okay, Dave, explain that term for the people that don't know what it means.
Railroad crews can work 12 consecutive hours, or if in the case of suburban service, with a 3-hour break, they can work up to 16. 12 hours. Once your 12 hours are up, you stop the train. If you're blocking crossings, you're supposed to be able to pull the train far enough ahead to clear the crossings so you're not blocking anything. That's what good railroad workers do. Some guys just stop the train when they run out of their hours of service, and it's called dead on time or dead on your hours. I had an experience once where I was picking up a train from a crew that had died, and a police car pulled up, and he asked me why the train had been sitting there for so long, and I said, well, the crew died. And this guy just freaked out.
Wrong thing to say to a policeman.
I had to do a quick explanation of hours of service and why we call it dead on your hours. So, but the people that live over there are incensed by having trains parked there. They don't shut the units down, the locomotives down, because they provide air pressure for the air brakes. You shut down the locomotive, the air brakes leak off, and if the train isn't properly tied down with handbrakes, it rolls away, like in Canada, where the oil train rolled down the hill and blew up a whole town.
That particular set of tracks you're talking about, the only grade crossings that go into the city are 103rd Street, 111th Street, and 115th Street. And the people who live in Mount Greenwood, myself included, often talk about digging tank traps at those three grade crossings and seeding from the city, because Mount Greenwood is literally surrounded on three sides by the suburbs. It's so far out that there is a fire station in Mount Greenwood, because if that grade crossing gets blocked, the closest piece of fire equipment is 80th and Kedzie.
Well, 111th, there's a fire station.
It's on the wrong side of the tracks.
I know.
The closest piece that could get to them without having to cross the tracks is 80th and Kedzie, and then they have to hope that the tracks aren't blocked at 94th and Kedzie.
Well, the alderman, I get his email newsletter. He's encouraging people who have issues with the railroad to contact I think it's the Surface Transportation Board that they're filing the complaint with, and they give the name of the person and the address, and you can give them your complaints. So.
Speaking of suburbs, wasn't Mount Greenwood a suburb of its own or a town of its own until the 20s or something like that?
It was incorporated in 1934.
24, okay. Like Depression era brought a lot of people in and.
Well, it was a place where all the burgers from Morgan Park went to sin. They had all the thing. Morgan Park was basically a dry town, full of very religious people, but religious people love to sin, so they'd go over to Mount Greenwood.
Now, was Morgan Park also a separate community at one time?
Yeah, Morgan Park lasted quite a long time. They didn't get annexed until 1911. They were like one of the last big annexations.
If you ever read Tom Power's book, to Patent Leather Shoes Really Reflect Up, he alludes to the seven holy tombs, which are the string of cemeteries, because people used to come from the city on the train, and then they'd be picked up by wagons and taken to the cemeteries. And then Mount Greenwood basically sprouted up as a string of saloons and restaurants to service the funeral trains.
Yeah, the BNOCT had a station at 115th Street, and the Grand Trunk had a station right at the cemetery. Those are long gone.
I know there were still some, not very long ago, there were still unpaved streets there, some gravel here and there.
Alleys.
Well, I bought my house in 1978, and I can remember them tearing the street up in front of my house after I took delivery of my 1980 Buick LeSabre, and it was the first real street. I mean, I had asphalt, but no curb and gutter. I grew up at 107th and Holman, and when it rained, the streets flooded, and we could make, 1x4 boats with sails on them and go sail boats in the middle of the street.
But that's for another
From
show.
the old WPA streets.
Yeah, WPA, right. My dad was with that WPA before he went to Central Steel in 1940. So,
I see Ron looking at the locomotive that I brought in.
okay.
I found a Lehigh Valley number 627 44-ton center cab switcher in a resale shop, and it was in sad shape. Both of the end rails were banged over, and instead of the cherry red that it should be, it was a pretty grungy, pretty filthy red. And I will be eating Burger King for the next week or so because I paid $25 for it, but with a little bit of warm water and soap and a soft toothbrush and a pair of pliers to straighten out the rails and a little oil, it runs like a champ.
Mm-hmm.
It's a strong runner. I'm really, really surprised. For $25, this engine is as old as my original Lionel. It was produced in 1956 and 1957. The only thing it doesn't have is a horn and a light, but those can be retroed into it by a good mechanic.
You'll like to know that I have the blue Baltimore and Ohio sister
so
to
do
this
I.
one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Someone I was running it at the club, and somebody came up to me and says, "I have one just like it. It was blue. Somebody painted it green." I said,
For St. Patrick's Day or what?
He said it's a sickly shade of green.
Yeah.
It was never made in green.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually made in 4 colors: the blue for the B&O, the red for the Lehigh Valley. I don't remember the other 2 off the top of my head. Silver.
Burlington.
Okay. And surprisingly, they reintroduced it in this year's Lionel catalog. So it is a popular little engine, and it's a strong runner.
Well, I remember when under Kuhn, when they reintroduced it first, and they actually put regular switcher trucks underneath it instead of the Blombergs.
Well, this thing has its original set of trucks, and molded into the bakelite of the power truck, it says 027 diesel switcher. Lionel Manufacturing Company, U.S. of America.
Maybe you should explain the difference between O and 027.
Okay, it deals with the dimensional sizing of the engine. 027 is 1 to 43 scale, and the cars and the engines are generally about 10 inches, and O scale is 1 to 48. And the track width is identical. The O gauge track is a little bit taller. I believe it's actually 5/8 inch tall, where the 027 is shorter. 027 runs on a 31 inch diameter, and the O gauge runs on a slightly larger. Brian's better on the technical stuff than I am, though. I've got the scales, but Brian's better at laying track than I am. So maybe Brian will keep me from embarrassing myself.
No, 027 is the diameter circle is 27 inches, and the regular O gauge is 31 inches. 031 originally.
Yeah. Well,
And like you said, yes, it was thicker and a heavier rail.
yeah. Of course, now you can get up to 096 curves, but my wife doesn't love me enough to build a layout with 096 curves. If I hadn't bought her that 1909 treadle model Singer sewing machine, I don't think she'd put up with me spending every Saturday out at the train club. I don't know. I don't understand why a woman needs 5 sewing machines, but if that's what she wants, that's what I'll buy for her.
Yeah, basically the 027 came in when they started making the lesser expensive line, lesser expensive O-gauge line, the Joy line, I think it was called in the 20s.
My original train is called a Scout Set. That was one of the low end.
Well, that was low end in the 50s, yes. Yeah, but it was the Joy line that started. I actually have one train set that was Joy line. But it was, Lionel 027.
Yeah,
So
of
that
course.
way everybody can have a train.
Explain the Super O track now.
That was really funky stuff.
It was nice stuff. I like
It was. In fact, it was 36-inch diameter curve that the new Fast Track that Lionel makes, trying to be realistic, the Fast Track is 36 inches.
The Super O track that Ron referred to was a complete molded track section with the 2 outside rails appeared to be conventional rail track. The center rail, which isn't a Lionel thing, was solid copper, and it was nice until you ran your train to the point that you literally cut the pickup roller in half. But the Super O track was very much a more realistic looking track. The Fast Track that Brian referred to is a one-piece molded composite roadbed and track, and the 3 pieces of rail are molded right into it. I tell people that you could, with the Fast Track, you could put the train up on great grandma's Persian rug and run it all day, and if you don't run the train off the track, when you pick up the track at the end of the day, you will not have snagged a single thread on the rug. It transmits power better. It's much quieter operation, much smoother operation, and it's much more realistic looking. And I've actually seen people tape off the top of the center rail and paint the sides of the rail so that they vanish into the roadbed and ties. You have more flexibility with it. One of the little layout out at the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club, the 16-foot by 5-foot 4-inch layout, was built at the request of Lionel to show off what you could do with Fast Track. That's the one that the kids really like, not because of all the switches and turns and everything, but that's where Thomas and Percy and James and Diesel hang out. And it's also 20 inches off the floor on short stilt legs. So, the kids just love it because they can get around on 3 sides of it.
Oh, Thomas. My grandson watches that.
Or as my granddaughter says, Tabas.
Yeah.
But going back to what was good about the Super O track was just for the people that put their trains together at Christmas time around the tree, because the track connected with the plastic.
Yeah.
So it stayed together. So that track that was underneath the tree by the windows that you would try to knock the tree down to put back together if it came apart, at least that never came apart. You never had that problem.
That was never the problem. My problem was always that my parents had a full-blooded collie, and she had to stick her nose into the tree and knock the tinsel off, and we all know what happens when tinsel hits electrified tracks.
Mm-hmm. My brother and I did that on purpose.
And we all remember the story of the puppy that got too close to the train tracks.
After I got married, my wife had a German Shepherd, and he got a hold of one car, and I want to say it was either a McDonald's car or a Hershey's chocolate car, one of the two, but he didn't pick nothing else. He picked the food car. That's what he ate up. That's a true story.
My sister had a cat, and the cat had a bad habit of trying to slap the train as it went by. every once in a while the train wouldn't let the paw go.
Whoa.
Yeah, the cat got over that habit real quick.
Wasn't there a Donald Duck cartoon where Chip and Dale were in the Christmas tree and at least one, right? Oh well.
I think I saw that cartoon once or twice.
Yeah.
They used to do all kind. You know, I can remember Lionel running commercials during Mr. Ed on television.
Yeah.
Lionel toot toot engineer.
You know, and they were touting the cop and hobo car.
Yeah.
That and the track inspection car that I
I
always
had one
thought
of
looked
those.
like a big Dodge.
And then 1960, the submarine car.
Yep.
The giraffe car.
The guided missile car. The helicopter
With
car.
the helicopter car, yes.
The exploding box car.
Yeah.
I remember there was a program they put together actually to show at Christmas, Wonderful World of Trains. And they had those cars on it, and they actually played it for like 2 years on the local station. They showed it when they started showing Laurel and Hardy's March of the Wooden Soldiers. And it was great. Get the helicopter car going up, target spotted.
Toyland, Toyland, dear little girl in Boyland.
I grew up basically in this neighborhood, so this is my stomping grounds. But I could remember Christmas time. There were two places we stopped at. We'd walk to Belmont and Central. There was a hobby shop called Pilot Paint, and they lasted maybe till about the last 10 years. And they always have a small little layout, something in the window. But then you'd go a couple blocks south on Central to Polk Brothers. Polk Brothers had nothing fancy, but they had the trains going around in a octagon or a loop, whatever you want to call it, bigger than this room. This entire basement. That's how big it was in length and probably in width. It was always good to go see those in downtown. How many of those places had them? And the windows and everything. They had the trains running.
I grew up in the East Coast, so...
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. No, because I got to take the train from my hometown of New Brunswick and ride to New York. And somehow we ended up at a place called Lionel Trains Corporation.
The big showroom in New York, yeah.
16 by 32 layout.
I say that in jest because I'm the one who goes east to not Pittsburgh. What's the big place? Philadelphia. I go out there, ride the streetcars. Yeah. I went out there when they were running the CTA 6000s, and they were using those cars out there
On the Norristown line.
On the Norristown line, rode those back and forth.
Someone gave me an original in the box rotating beacon. The sales price sticker is still on it from Marshall Fields for $5.95.
From where?
Yes.
Marshall Fields.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
That's when people
But-
were making 10 cents a day.
But when we went to the Lionel Corporation building, we actually went to the Madison Hardware, and we actually went to the original Polk Brothers store. They had 5 floors of hobby supplies.
I can believe it. Town appliances up here on the north side back in the 80s had a set made by Lionel that they sold in their store, and they had a short box car, the 64 series box car, gray, black print graphics that said Town Appliances on it. And a lot of other companies have done it since. Ford did it, Chrysler did it, I think GM did it. Someone gave me one of those. I don't have the rest of the set, but I have that car. I've got a lot of stuff. I think 25 years ago, this Christmas coming, I took my kids to the Emerald Society Christmas party. Emerald Society, the Irish American Police Association. And we're down in Old St. Pat's. So I grabbed my train set and some extra track my original train set from 1957, put a couple of tables together, and was running the train. Had a bunch of wide-eyed kids and a bunch of teary-eyed dads.
Yeah, for sure.
And for 25 years, I've been running trains every Christmas for that party.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I think even Scrooge has a fond memory of having a train set as a child.
And you have referred to this as the sickness, correct? The sickness? Sickness?
Yeah, Lionel collectors will get together and have a cup of coffee or something else, and they'll commiserate about having the sickness, because when you get the catalog, there's something in there you just have to have. It's an addiction. Socially acceptable addiction, but an addiction.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes us human, isn't it? A little more than just, life is more than just bread. By bread alone does man live. Somebody said that. Was it Jesus?
Model trains.
Yeah.
Well, I'm lucky. I've infected actually a niece of mine. I had an extra Walt Disney Mickey Mouse Christmas set. She's a big Mickey Mouse fan and everything. So I sent it to her she married my nephew, so I sent it to her. Man, she sent me so many videos of the dog chasing the train around the track and her little 1-year-old going after it. I think I got them hooked for at least 6 years.
Mm-hmm. My sister went and bought Polar Express sets for each of her children to put around the Christmas tree. Each of my 3 children have their own train sets, and both of my grandchildren have their own Lionel train sets, which is a pretty good deal, seeing as CK is only, well, he was born in June, so, he's not a year old yet. He doesn't know he has it. But his big sister loves her Thomas.
Well, it's like, I got a daughter that really goes, Dad, what excites you about this stuff? But I've got a granddaughter. She's got 8 sets. Her dad makes sure she has them up running.
Yeah. Well,
someday my wife is going to have to go through the basement and divvy up all the trains to all the kids and all the grandkids. That will be my revenge, because I won't be around for it.
You'll pass it on to the next generation.
Yep.
Okay. Well, gang, time moves right along when you're enjoying yourself, and apparently it did today. We had a good show, and I'm glad everyone was able to make it. Doug Kenyuk was on assignment, so he couldn't be here. And we did okay. Would you say, Ron?
Yes.
Yes. And an announcer, Mr. Brian.
Thank you, sir.
And David Darushka.
Yes. Da.
Darushka.
Da.
Da.
As they say in Russian. Da.
Means
yes. Da.
And Kevin Berry. That's a fine name now. What county did parents come from now?
County Cook.
Cook? Yeah, that's what I thought to the guy. I was working downtown, blowing the whistle. Sunday, it was a summer evening in '73, and this guy comes walking off State Lake down the stairway in the train outfit. You look at him, he's an old country Irishman, wiry and and kind of ruddy. And he says, "Tell me now, what county do your parents come from?" And I said, "Cook." See, I'm a redhead, everybody. You can't see that on the television screen here, but actually the redhead in my family comes from the German side, so I should have said Stuben Austria. Okay. Remember, everybody, before we go, happy rails to you, and we'll see you next month.
All aboard! Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Join again with us next time, where we take a railroad of the imagination to our continuing journey through our wonderful world of trains. Chicago Junction is a production of the Windy City Hometown Radio Network and can be heard over this station, as well as WindyCityHometown.com. where recordings of all our shows may be heard and you can be tortured. Once again, all aboard. This is your announcer, Brian Valou. Thank you for listening. Oh yeah, the conductor portrayed by Charlie Johnson, a struggling young actor in need of work. Please, we've been pleading for the last 3 years now.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7, WRHS FM Norwich, and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Monday, February the 22nd, the year 2016. Chicago Junction was produced by Jack Ryan, directed by John DeVita, and special thanks to radio station manager Kevin Zeflik of WRHS FM Norwich, and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chicando. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Thursday, February the 18th, the year 2016. Until next time, please be safe, and thanks for listening. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois.